Words about books, Ben.
It's words about books, Nate.
It's Canada versus America in Stanley Cup final, Ben.
Oh boy, who do you root for?
I root against Florida, so
Who is it?
100%.
Is it the Maple Leafs?
No, God.
That's what I was like,
me?
what?
No, Florida kicked their ass right out of the tournament.
Is it the Oilers?
No, it's the Oilers.
Okay. Oilers versus Florida? Yeah, I'm going Oilers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think everybody. Who's rooting for Florida?
Yeah. Yeah, they won it last year. No one wants to see them win it again. It's gross. It's gross to have a Florida team with the ice hockey championship.
It's gross to have a Florida team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There are 2 Florida teams.
Yeah, just know if you're listening to this podcast and you're from Florida, well, you're not welcome here.
That's the takeaway from this.
If you're listening to this podcast, you might be one of the good ones. In which case, I'm sorry you have to be in Florida.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Florida. We're here to talk about the Futurlogical Congress by, I forget, but it was something kind of like Soviet bloc.
Stanislaw Lem.
Yeah.
Comrade Lem.
By Comrade Lem. How did this happen? How did we get here?
This is a patron selection. This was the one where I just had everyone give me 3 suggestions. All of our patrons gave us 3 suggestions. I put them on a wheel and I spun the wheel, and this is what it landed on.
Okay. So you didn't know who this guy was either.
I had no earthly idea what we were getting into.
Okay. I knew nothing about this. I still know nothing about this guy.
He's Polish, but he was born in Ukraine. I got that right.
But he was born in Ukraine when it was a Soviet
Republic.
Republic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Republic.
Okay.
Republic is the word you're looking for there. They voted their representatives into state to represent them. It was all fair and legal and above board.
Okay. So, because I do get that, like, that kind of humor. I don't know. I haven't read a lot of Ukrainian books, but I have read some Russian stuff, and I get that.
The humor of having to live in...
The humor of having to live. I think that's...
There you go.
Yeah. The inherent comedy that is the tragedy of life. That's the brand of humor I get from this book. So, yeah, you had no idea what this was. I had no idea what this was. I don't know who this guy is. But apparently...
I heard him compared to Philip K. Dick, and there's another guy that people say is good, but man, he's 0-1, soon to be 0-2 on this podcast.
I like PKD, but yeah, I think people like him. People like him more for the trippy psychedelic stuff than the hard science fiction of it all.
I think they like him more for the stuff that his stuff creates, like
Blade Runner is much better than and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So I'm sorry. Tell me his name one more time. Stanislaw
Lem. I'm pronouncing that as a guy from the middle of America would pronounce it. So if that's wrong, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you should have thought about that before you listened to me pronounce things.
No one understands linguistic complexities better than Middle Americans.
Exactly. That's why J.R.R. Tolkien is one of us spiritually.
He would hate everything about what you just said. So yeah, apparently this guy's pretty famous, and we're going to look very stupid for all the people who click on this episode. I still don't know much about him. I have been told...
I don't know much about him, but I am willing to talk about him as if I'm an authority on the subject, and that's good enough.
I'm not an authority on the subject. I gather now Philip K. Dick, I would have said more of a, based on at least this book, which I have been told is not necessarily the best first book by him. But I would have assumed he was more of like a Douglas Adams kind of, like, this is humorous, right? Like, this is supposed to be funny.
I mean,
I was
supposed to
laughing.
be, I suppose.
I thought it was genuinely funny.
Well, that makes one of us.
I think we're gonna have an interesting episode. It's been a while since we've been like truly split on something, and I think I'm going to be much nicer to this than you are. There's also been a
Probably.
while since I've been the nice one.
That's not true. You're usually the nice one.
I try to be, but you keep putting things in front of me, specifically designed to bring out the worst in me. So
You don't want to, you're not looking forward to Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood?
it's not gonna be the worst thing you've done.
No, I think maybe perhaps it's better than Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants and Bridget Jones' Diary.
I'm still a little sore about Austin McConnell.
He's got other books.
I'm sure he does.
You don't like the either post or pre World War II book? We don't know because no one talks about the war.
Might have been during.
It might have been, but we don't know. No one mentions anything.
Okay, we have to talk about this book, though.
All right, Ben, what is a futurologist?
I believe from what I've read, it is somebody who studies potential future outcomes. They try to predict the future. This reminded me a lot of, and I wonder if it's not a direct parody of Foundation.
I mean, you got to have a pretty large foundation for the gigantic buildings you're going to be building to house all these people, Ben.
No,
You're talking about Asimov.
I'm talking about Isaac Asimov's Foundation series. Because in the Foundation series, there is a man named Hari Seldon who is a psychohistorian.
Okay. All right.
It wasn't funny when he wrote
it. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know much about Asimov. I was once I was at a white elephant where it was a gift, but I ended up with either socks or gay porn instead of that great gift that Jamie the Gravy Man bought, which was the works of Asimov. It might be the same party. So yeah,
Okay.
that's because my ex had terrible, shitty theater friends. Anyway, tell me how it's similar to Foundation, the book series that I was not able to read.
So I'm going to give you like a super high level version of the plot of Foundation. Hari Seldon is a psychohistorian. This was published in 1951.
Oh boy.
And the science of psychohistory is essentially this dude has figured out how to analyze history in such a way that he can predict the events of the future with an extreme degree of accuracy. And he has determined that this galactic spanning empire is going to collapse. And this doesn't make any sense to anyone. It seems like the empire is doing fine.
How often did he think about the Roman Empire?
All the time, probably. Actually,
So
they didn't know where Earth was. It's
shit.
that far in the future. Nobody remembers where humanity started.
What a really what's the word I'm looking for here? Like pie
optimistic.
In the sky. There you go. Yeah, what an optimistic way of looking at our future. We just spread so far, we don't even know where Earth is anymore. It's crazy.
Well, they don't even know if Earth was the original planet.
Wow.
There are multiple candidates.
So it's collapsing, or it's going to collapse because he's a psychohistorian.
Yeah, it's going to collapse. And this is where the stories start to kind of diverge. I think the futurology might be somewhat inspired by psychohistory, but in Foundation, then it does collapse. But Hari Seldon has used the science of psychohistory to create a foundation, this organization that's going to be on this planet, and with his help, they're going to be able to restore civilization, like a galactic civilization, within a few hundred years rather than a few thousand years.
Okay, but maybe it collapsed for a reason, Harry. Maybe the Republic was just so bloated that it allowed a guy to come in and grab all the power, and maybe even if the first or the second ruler is good, eventually you're going to get a Caligula.
This goes Foundation goes pretty deep. I'm not gonna. He addresses some of this, but Futurological Congress does not. So what we have in common here is a science of academic soothsayers and a crumbling empire.
It sounds cool. How dry is it?
Very.
Okay.
Desert dry.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't know if these older sci-fi things are for me, Ben. Every time I try, I get in. I just.
You know how people used to say. World of Warcraft was like the theme park version of EverQuest.
Yeah.
Dune is the theme park version of Foundation.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
I like it, but there's a reason I haven't had you try to read it yet.
Oh my god. Okay.
The one thing I'll give you is it's short.
Ooh.
The books are all like sub 300 pages.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think that's where I got that Lem was probably drawing from, like, that hard sci-fi background, and he's making fun of it a little bit. Like the futurologists are all overtly pretentious, stuffy academics who are totally detached from the reality of suffering that they casually study, and it had a very like sarcastic, ironic sort of humor that I was surprised you didn't like, because it reminded me a lot of Futurama.
Futurama probably did better.
I think Futurama was punchier for sure. But we also have to admit, like this is another thing that's going to come into play for use of language. We are reading a translation.
Yeah, and it's old.
Ben. And it's old. Well,
it has a weird like formality. No, 70s.
70s, okay.
71 and translated in 74.
If you think this was weirdly formal, you're going to struggle with Foundation.
Yeah, because that's like they still wore hats everywhere back when that was published.
Yeah.
Because you can't see a man's head. That'd be too arousing.
Well, it's so personal.
Yeah. Only my wife and kid can see the top.
Well, yeah, like, am I going to still look at you the same way if I know what the top of your head looks like?
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm just going to be thinking about that lush head of hair. Or what if you're bald?
Yeah.
What if God help you, you're bald?
Better to let it be a mystery. Keep them guessing.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the challenge facing the Empire in Foundation is, I think, one of like decadence and whatever. The challenge in Futurological Congress facing society seems to be overpopulation.
Yeah. Now we do have orgy courts where we all go to everything, but don't have any unlicensed kids because we don't have enough space.
I think I gotta say that I feel like the people attending an orgy court are going to be some of the least likely to reproduce people.
Good.
I mean,
sure you're all on the pill or the patch or the injection or the implant or the get your shit torn out, you know?
Yeah. Condoms are also an option.
No, Absolutely. Don't be a fucking loser, okay? Don't bring it. You bring a condom to an orgy, you get out of my orgy. Okay?
I didn't know that was. I guess I revealed my lack of orgy attendance there.
So yeah, we've got I can't remember his first name, but Tiki was his last name. His first name's
I feel like it was Igor.
Ijon. Ijon Dijon
Dijon?
mustard.
Dijon mustard. So we have
Dijon
Dijon
tiki.
mustard. Or we could call him that. So Dijon Tiki, and who's the professor that's there for most of it?
Tarantoga, Tarantoga.
Yeah, Tarantoga, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're going to
so
the Futurlogical conference. We're going to save the world. Here is a coupon booklet, good for one free intercourse. I guess it's not free, but I assume that you give a coupon. You got it.
if you're using a coupon, I'd say that's free. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
I would say
discounted.
so.
Yeah.
And the rooms are guaranteed bomb free. This is when I was like, okay, this isn't serious. I hope.
No, I think it's a comedy.
I hope this isn't serious. That'd be very strange. And then the was it the U.S. president or just like a diplomat? But he's on stage. His bodyguards have their weapons like drawn and aimed at the crowd. And then like one of I think it was like one of the Indian diplomats or something. Some guy in the crowd goes to grab something from his pocket. They think he has a gun and they just blow him away. Right next to Tiki Ben.
I did notice. I don't know who it was, but I did notice they were American.
Yeah, because we're America and we're great. And you wish you had the right to bear arms in the USSR, because then maybe you could resist your oppressive government like we do all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that might be the one saving grace of this political moment is I told you it wasn't going to work. I told you having the Second Amendment wasn't going to be enough.
What? What are you talking about, Ben?
Everybody
we're in a good place. We're in a good place.
Yeah, no, we're in a good place.
Yeah. The NRA hasn't done any armed insurrections to overthrow the government, so that must mean the government's good. So, how we solve overpopulation, Ben? First of all, this hotel is like a million stories tall. It's not that high. It's like 100 or 200 or something. It's really tall. It's a gigantic hotel. And what we're going to do is we're going to build giant habitats for people with the aforementioned orgy courts that is put on the sea floor and stretches all the way into the stratosphere. Again, how optimistic is it that we're going to try and save everyone when we're overpopulated?
No, I'm going to, I guess, tease something. So ever since Futurological Congress was chosen, actual author John Bierce has been trying to schedule an episode with me to talk about overpopulation fiction.
Yeah.
Which I didn't know really was a genre. And I know like there's this, Malthusian idea that the common man will just breed himself to death if left unchecked by his betters or whatever. But like reading this in 2025, it was just cute to me that they're literally like every first world government seems to be trying to address birth rate issues,
underpopulation,
despite there not being any kind of
well, it's because they think a very specific demographic is going to run out of people.
We're not in any danger of running out of people. It's just,
well, we might be not the majority anymore, like
I got news for you, buddy. I don't really feel like I'm in the majority right now. I may look like you, but I don't think we agree on a lot. But yeah, no, it's just cute to me that like they just like so many very intelligent people really thought that like if things got this comically terrible, like At one point in this book, people are literally just like crawling over each other. There's so little space. Like we're so overpopulated that people are just sitting on top of each other. And I know, I guess there's like those coffin apartments in Beijing and in the capsule hotels in Tokyo. Like I know there are specific areas of the world that are super densely populated to a ridiculous extent, but they really thought people were just going to like continue to produce like
Yes.
4 or 5 kids per family.
I have one room in my house left where people can comfortably sit without being on top of other people. Let's fill it with some more kids. Come here, honey.
Yeah, like I don't know. That's just funny to me.
I'm gonna rent out half of a room of my house to someone who wants it, and I'm gonna make some money off my property.
Well, and of course, all the suggestions the Futurological Congress has are just laughably stupid. So, I'll give Lem this. I think he knows that the people having these conversations are also morons. But
what are we gonna do, Ben? How about we just build an even bigger building that goes from the bottom of the Earth's crust all the way out into space?
Do you know? I remember this is actually interesting because in the 90s, I was this may shock you, Nate. I was a child who watched a lot of documentaries.
That sounds like something low energy Ben would do.
And I
Did you also drink coffee back then?
I drank my first cup of coffee
like 8?
at no. Honestly, I think it was responsible. I think it was like 13, 14.
Okay, that's not terrible.
No.
I may have had a cup of really weak coffee before then, but it's because
you know how they got
I needed
me?
to take a shit, Ben.
You know how they got me to not drink coffee?
They gave you coffee?
No, they told me it would make me short.
Oh, because they did think it would stunt your growth.
Yeah,
back
they
in
told
the
me
day,
it would stunt my growth.
That's been proven to be pretty inaccurate.
I could have been drinking coffee the whole time.
Yeah. Could have been drinking coffee right out of the womb.
Do you know I only have maximum 12 ounces of coffee a day?
That's fucking nuts.
I have cut way back.
Wow. I was going to cut it out, and then I got a horrible migraine at Disney, so I got to get that coffee back.
Some days I can just do tea. Green tea. I do drink a lot more than 12 ounces of that, though. But yeah, I thought that was funny. So I was a kid. I was watching a lot of documentaries, right? And I do remember as a kid in the 90s, they weren't quite sold on global warming yet. Al Gore hadn't enlightened us. And there were some out there saying we could be dealing with a second ice age.
Global cooling is what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. And wouldn't you know, that happened. And that happened in this book. Not in reality. It would be kind of wonderful if it happened in reality.
Yeah, if we could get a second ice age to just kind of cancel out, that would be the...
Yeah, if there was a second ice age coming and we actually intelligently pumped a bunch of carbon in the atmosphere to dodge it, then we would really look smart.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I also watched a documentary where they were talking about how overpopulation is going to get so bad that we're going to have to start building ocean habitats.
Oh.
We're going to have to move into the ocean.
That's a terrible idea. We've got plenty of land. The problem is not a lack of land. It's how do we feed? How do we get shit out of ocean habitats? There's a lot of things that go into building an ocean habitat we just don't have.
You live in the ocean, you just chuck your garbage out the window.
And then drink from it.
I mean, it all winds up in the ocean anyway, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So you just cut out the middleman.
Hey, we already have an island made of garbage out there. We
could put a house on that.
Stone. Yeah.
We're just building floating islands. You know, like a lesser civilization would consider that magic.
Yeah.
That we
got it.
A floating island. But yeah. So what happens at the Futurological Congress?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we're talking about that. So yeah, there's going to be a riot. Is there anything else we want to talk about at the Congress itself before a riot breaks out? And I guess he drinks the water and he's like, "Why do I feel so happy all of a sudden?"
That was the first scene that sort of stood out to me as like, oh, we're doing proper sci-fi comedy here. He drinks unfiltered water at a hotel. The fool.
In Costa Rica,
Oh
even if it
yeah.
wasn't laced with drugs, it wasn't going to be good water.
You better hope it's laced with drugs.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to feel your bowels either way. At the very least, if you're high, not as bad.
Yeah, but he becomes euphoric and overwhelmed with a sense of love and compassion for all beings to a comic extent. I actually thought this scene was pretty funny. I thought his descriptions of like
It was okay.
enlightenment and trying
It's
to
the
resist it.
Nate seal of okayness, Ben.
I thought it was fine.
It was there, and it wasn't bad. It was there.
There is a challenge in like reviewing a comedy book, and we've mentioned this every time we do. Of I can't deconstruct a joke and convey how funny it was to you. So you're going to have to read the book if you want to gauge the humor for yourself. We're probably not going to do it justice, even though Nate doesn't think there's much justice to do.
Yeah.
But no, I thought it was funny. He feels this feeling of euphoria. He realizes he's been drugged because he's feeling this uncommon, awful sense of oneness with the universe, and even
Disgusting.
thinking
Yeah.
of his worst enemies is not doing anything to him. He just cannot help but love them, and he wished he had more than one life to give. He wished like a fly would go into his room so he could kill himself and become a corpse for it to feast on. Like it becomes ridiculous. And then I believe that same sort of chemical finds its way like airborne, like bombs start going off in the middle of the Congress.
Yep.
And the whole world is plagued with love.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
And peace.
Use normal bombs, guys.
And I'll tell you now,
That would solve that population crisis pretty quickly.
The bulk of the book, and this is just something I don't like for my own sake, like nobody ever puts a content warning up for this, but this is something like I genuinely hate, because I have this problem with like dreams sometimes, where like you realize you're in a dream and you wake up but you're still in a dream, and then you wake up and you're still in a dream.
Oh yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, it's torture.
Yeah, just tell me when we're done.
That's the framing device of this book.
Yeah, tell me when we're out of the dream, okay? Tell me when we're done.
The whole book is a dream.
The whole book. Yep.
So I knew as soon as it happened once that was going to be the case.
Yep.
There was a point where they're escaping and they have masks and oxygen tanks, and it's very funny because all these people are so desperately trying to resist feeling euphoria and love for one another. They wind up having to take their masks off, and they get poisoned, and he collapses and falls. He's in a sewer trying to escape, and he falls into one delusion and then wakes up in the sewer, and then he keeps getting rescued, but every rescue is just another descent into a delusion, all the way through the book. And then eventually there's one long sequence where he's rescued.
Yeah.
The bulk of the book is he's finally rescued, but he doesn't believe he's rescued. He refuses to believe it anymore, and they freeze him until they have a cure for crazy, which again reminded me of Futurama with Fry being frozen for delivering the wrong pizza and Nibbler pushing him in there. And
yeah, Futurama did it better. I gotcha.
And they thaw him out, and he winds up in this weird future where everything seems pretty good. And,
oh yeah, he gets shot by counter revolutionaries because he's like, well, go ahead and pull the trigger. I'm pretty sure I'm dreaming, which he is. And then they're like, well, he's crazy. Let's put him in the ice cube maker.
There's a series of stuff where like he gets killed. They
He
put his brain
awakens
in a new body.
in the distant year of 2039.
Yeah. Speaking of optimism, I guess, is it optimistic? Are we doing better in 2039 than he thought we would be? Well, let's not count our chickens before they hatch. Let's get there first.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot can happen in the next 14 years.
Yeah.
That's like
all of World War II happened in 14 years.
That's like 4 more Donald Trump presidencies. So we gotta
not unless they're putting his brain in something else.
yeah, you're right. So now we're in a utopian society. We've found the cure for crazy, which is pills, Ben. We have so many pills.
Yeah.
We've got so many pills. And we've named all the pills after what they do, which annoyed me to no end, Ben. Because that's not how we name pills in reality.
Well, that should have been your clue that he was dreaming.
Yeah, maybe.
I knew he was dreaming because obviously that was going to be the final joke.
Because he kept waking up over and over again. Yeah.
Well, once I realized that this one was taking so long that it was going to be the rest of the book, I knew the book ends with him waking back up in that sewer. It was so obvious. And maybe that's just because of, I don't know if this was like the first to do that bit or the first in Ukraine or Poland to do that bit, but no, I saw that coming a mile away. Yeah. So yeah, they've got the pills for everything. If you want to feel angry, you take an angry pill. If you want to feel sad, you take a sad pill. If you want to feel compassion, you take a compassion pill.
You want to get laid, you take a getting laid pill.
Unlike what we have in the year of our Lord 2025, where none of those things exist.
Well, yeah, that pill just gives you a boner. The pill in the book makes you also like them enough to get into it, you know?
Yes, true. Okay, true. You got me there. Nothing can make you... Well, you take some Molly.
Oh, okay.
Well, you could. I mean, I didn't... don't blame me.
Also, he'll find out soon that there's a pill that you could take to, like, hate people, to, like, torture people in your own world. Like, when they realize that he's an unfrozen popsicle man. Which, by the way, do we have overpopulation anymore? Because we keep bringing people back from the dead and unfreezing people, but they definitely don't want you to have kids anymore. Still, so whatever. Anyway,
well, we had the cure for crazy. We had a contractual obligation to unthaw him.
People would see him at a party. They'll like go to the corner, and then they'll pop a pill while maintaining total eye contact with him the entire time, because the pill gives them like a hallucination where they can torture people they don't like, but they're not actually torturing anyone. So you can get your anger out by living in a dreamlike state. And so, yeah, these people are beating the shit out of him in their own world whenever they're like, oh, this is a refrigerator man.
He finds out that everybody who he thought was very nice to him was actually torturing him in their own private pharmacological dimension.
Yeah.
And he meets back up with his friend, and he finds out that he finds out a couple of things. He finds out his friend is in a new field of study, kind of like futurology. This made me laugh. I don't know if it worked for you.
Fucking word thing.
Yeah, I actually
hated it.
I like that.
It. Get out of here.
There are so many people who actually
more
do
of that fucking
shit.
Frank Herbert bullshit. Let's see. Arrakis. Now, what does Arrakis mean? Let me tell you what that means. No, I hate it.
You need to hang around with more.
No, I don't.
More
you
philologists.
Need to hang out less with them, Ben.
Yeah.
All right. What else are we doing? He's
So how do you feel?
He's
Let's get to the.
disillusioned by this amazing world in which you can torture a really annoying guy who won't shut up
It
without having to
seems
actually hurt him.
now I got so in this part of the book I get Brave New World vibes, like where there's a pill for everything.
Yeah, I got those vibes too. And
Yeah,
what did I say about Brave New World? Sucked. Yeah, I think I said that. I think I said dry as shit. Wasn't a fan. Orgy porgy, Ben.
I did not hate Brave New World either,
Yeah, I know you didn't.
though I would probably say if you did not like Brave New World, you're not going to like this because this is pretty
No,
much just Brave New World.
no,
Because you
no.
think you even think it's going that way. I think he's purposely. So I think like in the beginning, maybe he was doing a little like Asimov Foundation stuff, and then I think in this maybe he's doing a little bit of Brave New World, where you think it might go the John from Brave New World route, where he's gonna like realize like, oh, I can't take this
So what it is
pharmacological
those
society.
things weren't published in Soviet Russia or Soviet Poland, and so but he was able to read them, and he was like, if I could just do all of these things, I'll be the father of all of them.
Hey, yeah. But yeah, so I thought it was maybe trying to go that way where he's gonna like reject
Yeah,
this
you gave Brave New
modern
World 3
delusion.
stars. I gave it 1.
I think giving Brave New World 1 star is pretty harsh. I don't know if we had a
I said, good
rubric back
job at
then.
being first, like all those YouTube comments for the late 2000s. You're something special, I guess.
That's a very Nate review. No, I thought this was fine, and I thought it was going that way. He had me tricked for a little bit. Like I thought he was going to kill himself and wind up back in the sewer, but no. It turns out that they're doing the Matrix before the Matrix.
Yeah, that
This
maybe that was this guy's real big problem. He didn't have enough leather and sunglasses.
it
It
wouldn't
couldn't
hurt.
hurt.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
wouldn't hurt.
couldn't hurt.
So his friend, the other scientist, gives him these smelling salts, and the purpose of these smelling salts is they act as an antidote for a secret drug they didn't even know they were taking, and that drug undoes the illusion where everything they're seeing is fake. It puts a nice veneer on a shitty world, a shitty crumbling world. You think you're eating an amazing 3 Michelin star meal, but actually you're eating moldy bread in a
You know what else
cafeteria
did
basement.
something like this, Ben? Pendragon, your favorite book. The 4th book, the whole point was we had to unplug people from that reality so they could fix their shitty reality rather than living in a fantasy. So,
Well, but in this one, people just can't stop having kids.
I would also, well, why Ben, the world is doing just great. I'm going to keep having kids cuz like I'm eating this 5-course meal in the middle of the street and robot butlers are cleaning everything up. I don't know any better, Ben. And I guess my wife is just there, so like what else are we going to do, you know? We don't have to work for a living, so,
I thought they did have to work.
Not if you're cool like me, Ben.
He asked the question. He's like, "Well, okay, but the shitty stuff still exists. So somebody must maintain the shitty stuff. Like somebody has to actually see what's there to be able to maintain it. Like somebody had to,
Yeah, but
even
I
though,
think aren't the robots just people?
uh,
I think he said something like the robots are all broken down. He's like, "Oh, are the ones that are actually working like people?
yeah,
Not
they
just
start
drugs?"
replacing people and like cyberizing people with.
We start replacing robots with people. Can you imagine a utopian society where we start giving people jobs by getting rid of automatic labor?
Well, I guess the thing, no, what I can imagine is that it was people all along,
Yeah.
and that the robots were just a thin veneer
When
with.
has anyone ever dressed up as a robot and went out on a show and made it look like that they have invented AI?
Pretty sure this is like the Waymo business model.
Oh, I was gonna say this was Elon Musk having that guy dress up as a robot.
Well, he didn't have the guy dress up as a robot. He had a guy piloting the robot.
No, there's a guy in a robot costume.
Oh, it was actually in a robot costume.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's less impressive.
Yeah, I think we can find a way to monetize this, Ben.
What, being in robot costumes?
Yeah, I mean, that actually, I had a great idea.
Hang on,
Where
I'll pretend to be my manager. How do we incorporate AI into this? But yeah, so we find out. What I remember is that the people who actually maintain the shitty infrastructure, they show up to work every day and they take pills that let them see the shitty infrastructure, and then at the end, and they take other pills that give them a great sense of satisfaction for doing their civic duty. So they work for 8 hours and they feel super proud of it, and then they like take pills to forget.
build back better.
Did
We're
we?
doing it. We're doing it, Ben.
Okay.
It only took us another 14 years, but Joe Biden's vision of building a better America
Yeah,
has
build
finally
back
come to
better,
fruition.
big beautiful bill. These people love their fucking bees.
The big Burberry belt, I think, is the other one.
What?
What? Nothing. Anyway,
Better Business Bureau. What is it with that triple B alliteration? Why are old white men so attracted to it? Is that going to happen to us?
yes, I'm already thinking about it.
Yeah. Oh god. So, yeah, so he realizes that the world is terrible, and um then he realizes that his friend is a cyborg, and then one thing leads to another, and he wakes up back in the sewer.
The end.
It's kind of the end.
Yeah.
It's a very short book.
He meets a guy. Was that his friend? No, that was another guy, and that guy was like trying to convince him that this is the best way to
I
do
think that was still his
this.
friend.
I don't think that was. I think it was a different guy. George P. Symington Esquire.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. Sorry, no, I was thinking of his friend when he finds out his friend's cyberized. But yeah, no, he does meet like an Agent Smith character
No, it's more like the architect from the
who
second
needs him
movie
to
that was bad.
believe that. Yeah, you're right. It is more like the architect. It's like the
Yeah.
Colonel Sanders guy who used a lot of fancy words.
Yeah, that asshole.
Yeah. He talks to him, and he's like, indubitably, vis-a-vis, inevitability, predecessor, and he's like, you know what, I'm not going to be a part of your system, man, and you need me to tell you that
Yeah,
you're
you
right.
could just make me do what you want, but you want me to believe it's correct. Well, guess what?
You
Fuck
have,
you.
in a
And
reverse,
then
you have just admitted that my genuine feelings have some sort of value, and that the feelings produced by a pill are therefore less valuable than my genuine emotion. And I'm going to make a big final stand on this, and it could be the sort of point that an entire science fiction novel could hang on. And then I woke up back in the sewer.
yeah, I'm gonna tackle you out a window, and then I splash into the sewer, and big sewer, big sewer for all those people. So now we're here, and the end. We're done. Go home.
So how do you want to talk about this? Do you want a rubric and
Sure. Let's rubric it, Ben.
okay, because I feel like
Blog.
we've been recording for an hour, but I feel like we have 20 minutes of material.
It's a very short book, Ben. Blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja. Go on blog.wordsaboutbooks.ninja and increase our site traffic, and then buy our merch.
We
Go
don't
to our
have
Patreon.
merch.
We'll get some merch. You want some merch? Let's get some merch.
Okay, we'll talk about the Patreon at the end.
Content and ideas, Ben.
I think I'm at a 4, Nate.
I guess that's fair. Yeah, I'll give it a 4, Ben. I don't wanna.
I mean, if you can think of some arguments against it, so
no, it's original. It's
define it.
original enough, and it's defined.
We define a 4
developed.
as original ideas and plot points are present and are clearly developed. And I think the Futurological Congress, obviously, it's not like I've pointed out a bunch of different sci-fi things I think it could compare to. So the ideas are not super original, but he is doing satire. He's doing parody, and
Well, it doesn't have the satire tag on it, so I think he's playing it all straight, Ben.
well, neither does A Modest Proposal, but
Well, I like the ideas in A Modest Proposal.
you want to eat Irish children?
Not just the Irish, but yes.
Okay. Have you read A Modest Proposal?
No, that's the one where we're going to eat poor children to save the rich. Yeah. I haven't read it, but I know what it's about well enough to say I'm on board. Let's do it.
There you are, United States Senator.
Exactly.
I assume the bill means what I think it means.
All right, yeah, I'll give it a 4. Original ideas and plot points are present and clearly developed. Even though I don't wanna, I agree it deserves a 4. Organization, Ben. Going with a 3 on this.
Really?
One. Yeah, I'm gonna have to downgrade it to 3 for constantly waking up and then
okay,
and then he's back in the sewer, and then he wakes up and he's back in the sewer, and he wakes up and he's back, and eventually my eyes just glaze over, and I'm like, okay, can we either get to the point or like, come on, man, let's come on, let's hurry up. You tell me when he's awake. Okay.
So
I guess if the comedy works for you, the endless waking up and he was shot by a counter-revolutionary and taken to a hospital and frozen, all those things might work for you. It didn't work for me.
I understand that, and this is a tough one for me because I think I'm actually going to go
a 5.
I think I am.
You son of a bitch.
So I don't know how original it was for the time. I've read and seen so many other bits where something like this is the point, especially since The Matrix. There have been so many like, oh, you woke up in this simulation. Nope, that simulation was a simulation of a simulation of its. I knew where it was going. I don't know how original it was for the time, but I think there's a certain genius in the comedic timing of a couple of short ones and then a really plausible long one, like to the extent where like I think the length was the goal for some of this, and you may say that hurts the writing.
He said is what I would say.
Yeah. But no,
because I'm immature. That's why the Futurological Congress didn't work on me, Ben. I'm not a big man.
I think the organization is done really well with the comedic timing. I think that final dream sequence is perfect. And like I wish I could think of a better example, but the only one I can think of off the top of my head of seeing something like this done before is that Rick and Morty bit where Morty lives an entire life inside the game.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Or the one where he falls into the fear hole, which is a
yeah,
more recent episode that.
I haven't watched
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't bring it
anything
up.
since the great Szechuan sauce wars of
Since it was cringe to watch, is what you're
yeah.
saying? Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'm gonna go with the 5. I think the pace or the pacing, the organization was really purposeful comedic timing, and I think it worked.
Word choice, Ben. How do you judge word choice for something that wasn't originally written in English, then translated, and is overly formal? And
I don't know. Can you give me an example of the formality you're talking about?
I don't know. Something's just off about it, Ben.
They do.
A coupon for a free intercourse. I don't
That's
know
the
why that.
joke.
Yeah, but
The
Ben,
joke is how casual. The joke is they're giving out intercourse like they would normally give out drink tickets.
that sounds awesome. First of all, and second of all, I don't know. Something about it was just weird. It rang very strange to me.
It's supposed to.
Yeah.
I think this is where the difference in our reviews are like we're identifying the same elements, and it's like, and I hated it, and I liked it.
I don't know. You think a 4?
I think a 4 is where I
creates an
would
atmosphere
land.
for the book.
Yeah, I would land at a 4. I think it's dated. I will give you that. It's dated, but I think if you read Asimov, you would understand who he's making fun of.
All right, personal preferences, Ben. I know where I'm sitting at. I'm at a 2.
I'm at a 3.
Okay. I just like the book, but I can understand its appeal to fucking nerds like you.
So I'm at a 3. Generally positive towards the book, but not your thing or just failed to impress. I would say I'm more on the line of not my thing. I think I'm impressed with, like I said, the comedic timing. I thought a lot of the bits would definitely either they inspired Futurama bits or they were just great minds think alike kind of things. But I do agree with you that I prefer it when it's done with the energy and tone of Futurama. And I hate the multiple dreams. I hate the not being able to wake up from a dream thing. And I don't know why I hate it. But that's not my thing.
Because we're in a dream right now.
We may be. I just like pick a layer and stay on it. That's my thing. I don't like jumping layers. I can totally believe we're in a simulation. That's fine with me. I just want to stay on one layer of it.
Yeah, we're a simulation, but we're not a simulation within a simulation within a simulation.
If we're a simulation, then the likelihood that we're a simulation of a simulation goes up exponentially.
Yeah.
Because if you could simulate one, then you could simulate them,
Yeah, but what if ours is so difficult to simulate that you can't?
Well, that's the joke in Futurama of like, are there infinite parallel universes? No, just the 2.
Yeah. Except for that episode when they made more parallel universes.
Should this just be a Futurama podcast?
Yeah. Recommendation strength, Ben. 3, I guess.
I'm actually also at a 3. I think it's
weak recommendation to genre fans. If you like really old, dry sci-fi, knock yourself out. If you like being a big dick Chad and watching Futurama, just watch that instead.
I don't think it's as boring as you found it. I didn't have nearly as hard a time getting through it as you did, but I do think it's very dated. And like even the problems it's dealing with, the overpopulation and the second ice age, that's not relevant sci-fi parody today, unfortunately. I really think the overpopulation thing is just a cheesy elitist classist kind of fear that all these poor breeders are just gonna eat us to death. Like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, now it's the opposite, Ben.
Yeah,
Now
no,
we need those disgusting pores
they want
to
exactly
mate
the right
more.
number of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But only, specific types of people,
And the more you could look like me, the better. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How much pigment in your skin? Because that's really going to determine whether or not I allow you to breed so that you can, I don't know, dress up as a robot and clean my house.
Well, it's like I eventually want to replace you with a robot, but unfortunately, my robot's just a guy in a suit right now. So I'm going to need a little bit more time. And also, if one of you knows how to build robots, I would like to steal that from you.
Yes. I would like you to build your replacement, please.
Thank you. You get it, finally. I'm trying to describe it to these idiots. I just can't do it.
I got 58, by the way, which would be a 3-star.
I got 15, 35, 50, 61. No, yeah, 61, 72.
Damn.
Which is, I think I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'll give it a solid 3, Ben. Which is 2
I
more
think
than I gave Brave New
that's
World.
infinite. I was just going to say that's infinitely more fair than what you gave to Brave New World. No, I think it's fine. I think I'd be interested to read. Well, you might not be, but I would be willing to give this Lemma another chance with a topic that has
And if
aged a
you
little better.
want to do that, go on to our Patreon, become a $2 or higher patron. You get to vote every single month on a book that we have to read, and sometimes you just get to put it on a wheel that'll spin. How hard could that be to win the lottery?
Not very.
Yeah. Sounds
Or
real easy to
infinitely.
me.
You don't do any work. It's pure chance. We also have a few new Patreon benefits. Well, not really new, but at the $2 tier, you would get talking about Tolkien episodes early, ideally, and you would get the new Words About Books, the role-playing game, a D&D actual play where Words About Books contributors play D&D in a fantasy world inspired by Words About Books. What does that mean? You'll just have to subscribe to find out. But you know who already subscribed to find out and more than found out and subscribed to a tier where the only additional benefit they get is that I am about to say their names? That's right, our Yacht Plan tier patrons. We, of course, have Shy with a Y over on TikTok, John Bierce, actual author of The Rack, The Mage Errant, and More Gods Than Stars, The City That Would Eat the World. John and I may be talking about overpopulation fiction. I guess there's a lot to this, and I have some questions for John, so I'm glad he's interested in doing that. We have Keegan, who gave me no project to shout out, so I'll simply say hello, Keegan. Jamie, the Gravy Man of the If You Want the Gravy blog. And last but not least, Isekai Sensei Sama of the That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster podcast.
Yeah. We did it.
We did it. We've been recording for 1 hour and 7 minutes. Yeah, it works both ways, Shy. Shy could have been a Russian.
Comrade.
Shy has the Constitution, and
I thought you were gonna say something like off the wall, like the eyebrows or something, and I was like, "What?
No,
what does that mean?"
I'm
What?
literally talking. Shy has the drug tolerance of a Soviet athlete.
Well, how much vodka does she drink?
Interestingly enough, Shy doesn't actually do much alcohol.
Well, can't be a Russian. Sorry, vodka or bust.
Well, that's because after we invented antidepressants, you weren't allowed to mix being Russian with antidepressants.
Well, the alcohol is your antidepressant.
I don't think that's how that. I think it's the exact opposite.
You can't get depressed if you're drunk all the time.
No, that's not what I've seen. No one's happier than an alcoholic. Oh, we're off to a terrible start. So much of this is going to have to get cut.
They're coming to get you.
They're coming to get you.
They know what you've done.
They know I know the psychohistory. But like reading this in 2025, as I'm literally watching like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, two of the most hideous men to ever live, try to get everybody to have babies.
Hey, like we're making progress, Ben. Trump is destroying the economy of the Kansas farmer, so soon we won't have to use all that water, and thus we'll have water for generations to come. That was smart.
I was at a D&D game unrelated to Words About Books, and somebody just out of nowhere kind of said, "Do you know 1 in every 4 pigs in America is owned by China?" And I was like, what?
First of all, why do you know that?
I don't know if it was relevant to some side conversation I was not a part of, but I heard him say that and I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I heard a guy say that at a D&D game, so it's probably true.
Alexa, stop. Yeah, that's right. Shut the hell up.
You need to study ancient languages with philologists. That sounded like any lecture I'd ever heard on Proto-Indo-European, which is a real language probably, unless it isn't. They're trying to, it's the reconstruction of the source language of most of the European and North Indian languages.
Huh. Does such a thing exist?
Yeah, it became like a dream, like a dream reconstruction when the British Empire, wound up in India because they were invited, and they noticed that They noticed that a lot of the ancient Sanskrit texts actually had a lot of linguistic characteristics in common with other ancient texts in Europe. And then they realized there was probably a common ancestor between Sanskrit.
And then they took everything they could and sent it back to the museum for study. That's
why they have the best museums.
Yeah, that's a solid choice. If you enjoyed these outtakes, you can go on our Patreon. For $2, you can get the ones that Ben won't let me release on here about Elon Musk's that looks like exploded by a fire, and the fat of shit that is the degrading Trump.